Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajaka Stotra Spishi Shimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavindi ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Premsagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 15, Parusharam, the Lord's Warrior Incarnation. We'll begin at text number 11, which I'll read all the way until text 15, and then we'll chant it responsively and read the purport. Text 11. Prasadita Satyavatya Maivam Bhur iti Bhargava Atatarhi Bhavit Pautro Jamadagnis Tato Bhavat. Satyavati, however, pacified Richika Muni with peaceful words and requested that her son not be like a fierce Kshatriya. Richika Muni replied, "Then your grandson will be of a Kshatriya spirit." Thus Jamadagni was born as the son of Satyavati. Purport: the great sage Richika was very angry, but somehow or other Satyavati pacified him, and at her request he changed his mind. It is indicated here that the son of Jamadagni would be born as Parusharam. Text number 12 through 13. Sa chabhut samahat punya Kaushiki Lokapavani Reno Sutam Renukam Vai Jamadagnir Uvachayam Uvahayam Tasyam Vai Bhargava Reshe Sutta Vasumad Adaya Yaviyan Yagna Ita Sham Rama Itya Vishruyata. Satyavati later became the sacred river Kaushiki to purify the entire world, and her son Jamadagni married Renuka, the daughter of Renu. By the semen of Jamadagni, many sons, headed by Vasuman, were born from the womb of Renuka. The youngest of them was named Rama, or Parusharam. 14. Yamahur Vasudevam Sham Haihayanam Kulantakam Trisapta Kritvato Ya Iman Trisapta Kritvo Ya Imam Chakre Ni Kshatriyam Mahim. Learned scholars accept this Parusharama as the celebrated incarnation of Vasudeva, who annihilated the dynasty of Kartavira. Parusharama killed all the Kshatriyas on earth 21 times. Text 15, we'll chant together. Drip Triptim Shatram Bhuvo Bharam Apramanyam Aninashat Rajastamo Vratam Ahan Palgunyapi Kritim Hasi Driptam Shatram Puvo Bharam Apramanyam Aniyashat Rajastamo Pratam Ahan Palgunyapi Kritim Hasi Triptam Shatram Puvo Bharam Abramanyam Aniyashat Rajastamo Vritam Ahan Palgunyapi Kritim Hasi Triptam Shatram Puvo Bharam Abramanyam Aniyashat Rajastamo Vritam Ahan Palgunyapi Vaishnavis Triptam Shatram Puvo Bharam Apramanyam Aniyashat Rajastamo Vritam Ahan Palgunyapi Kritin Mahti Triptam Shatram Puvo Bharam Apramanyam Aniyashat Rajastamo Vratam Ahan Palgunyapi Kritim Hasi Driptam, very proud. Shatram, the Kshatriyas, the ruling class. Bhuvaha, of the earth. Bharam, burden. Abramanyam, sinful, not caring for the religious principles enunciated by the Brahmanas. Aniyashat, drove away or annihilated. Rajatama, by the qualities of passion and ignorance. Vratam, covered. Ahan, he killed. Palguni, not very great. Api, although. Krute, had been committed. Anghasi, an offense. Translation. When the royal dynasty, being excessively proud because of the material modes of passion and ignorance, became irreligious and ceased to care for the laws enacted by the Brahmanas, Parashurama killed them. Although their offense was not very severe, he killed them to lessen the burden of the world. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Kshatriyas, or the ruling class, must govern the world in accordance with the rules and regulations enacted by great Brahmanas and saintly persons. As soon as the ruling class becomes irresponsible in regard to the religious principles, it becomes a burden on the earth. As stated here, Rajas Tamovratam Bharam Abramanyam. When the ruling class is influenced by the lower modes of nature, namely ignorance and passion, it becomes a burden to the world and must then be annihilated by superior power. We actually see from modern history that monarchies have been abolished by various revolutions. But unfortunately, the monarchies have been abolished to establish the supremacy of third-class and fourth-class men. Although monarchies overpowered by the modes of passion and ignorance have been abolished in the world, the inhabitants of the world are still unhappy, for although the qualities of the former monarchs were degraded by taints of ignorance, these monarchs have been replaced by men of the mercantile and worker classes, whose qualities are even more degraded. When the government is actually guided by brahmanas or God-conscious men, then there can be real happiness for the people. Therefore, in previous times, when the ruling class was degraded to the modes of passion and ignorance, the brahmanas headed by such a Kshatriya-spirited brahmana as Parashuram killed them 21 consecutive times. In Kali Yuga, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 12:2-13, Dasyu Prayeshu Rajasu, the ruling class, Rajanya, will be no better than plunderers, Dasyus, because the third class and fourth class men will monopolize the affairs of the government. Ignoring the religious principles and Brahminical rules and regulations, they will certainly try to plunder the riches of the citizens without consideration. As stated elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 12:140, Asamskrita kriyahinam rajasa tamasavrata prajaste bhakshayishyanti mlacha rajanya rupina. Being unpurified, neglecting to discharge duties properly, and being influenced by the modes of passion, rajas, and ignorance, tamas, unclean people, mlechas, posing as members of the government, rajanya rupina, will swallow the citizens, prajaste pakshishyanti. And in still another place, Srimad Bhagavatam 12:2-7-8 says, Evam prajabhir dushtabhir akirne shiti mandale brahmavit shatrashudranam yo bali bhavita napa praja hi lubdhai rajanyar nigranar dasyu karmabhi achinna daradravina yasyanti giri kananam. Human society is naturally grouped into 4 divisions, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam gunakarma vibhagasha. But if this system is neglected and the qualities and divisions of society are not considered, the result will be Brahmavit Shatrashudranam Yo Bali Bhavita Nripa. The so-called caste system of Brahmanas, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra will be meaningless. As a result, whoever somehow or other becomes powerful will be the king or president, and thus the prajas or citizens will be so harassed that they will give up hearth and home and go to the forest. Yasyanti giri kananam, to escape harassment by government officials who have no mercy and are addicted to the ways of plunderers. Therefore, the prajas, or the people in general, must take to the Krishna consciousness movement. What must they do? The Hare Krishna movement, which is the sound incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has now appeared as an incarnation by his holy name. Therefore, when the prajas become Krishna conscious, they can then expect a good government and a good society, a perfect life, and liberation from the bondage of material existence. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Driptam Shatram Bhuvo Bharam Abramanyam Anir Nishat Rajastamo Vratam Ahan Palgunyapi Kritam Hasi. When the royal dynasty, being excessively proud because of the material modes of passion and ignorance, become irreligious and cease to care for the laws enacted by the Brahmanas, Parashuram killed them. Although their offense was not very severe, he killed them to lessen the burden of the world. And although their offense wasn't very severe, we as residents of Earth right now are practically so exasperated with bad leadership in the government around the world. We feel happy when we hear this, that he killed them all. I mean, you can admit it. I know I do. It's nice to know that the Lord is there and it will take action, and does take action. He comes and makes things right, and he knows how to do it. At the same time, we're being invited in this verse, obviously. Why would there be a movement if we weren't being invited to be instruments for the Lord? That's one very exciting aspect of this verse, because at the end, Prabhupada mentions that the way to annihilate, which means to make zero, the demoniac tendencies of people in general in this age of Kali is to spread the holy name, to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. So that's the original spirit of the Krishna consciousness movement, and that is that we have a global task to do, that we're really meant to be an agent as a movement and agents individually for change in the world. Now, of course, only one who understands the transcendental science as given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita will know what the panacea for this degradation is. Because there are, as Prabhupada writes, many stopgap measures that people revert to. It's not that people don't want to have peace. They actually would like to see a good leader. There's just not one to be found. There aren't any good leaders. People elect people. Nowadays, the system becomes broken, and we have plutocracies around the world, or at least in America for sure, where the richest among the people get elected, because really it's about marketing more than it is about somebody being a good leader. And therefore, people in general, because the education system, even in the basis of democracy, is supposed to be that people are so well educated and they have free access to education that they know what they're doing when they elect somebody. I mean, the idea behind the Magna Carta was to prevent bad kings from taking over, and then it led it to the experiment into America, which is based on the Magna Carta, and then the Constitution of America, which is still posted there in Washington, D.C. You can go read both of them, the original documents that support the whole experiment that's going on there. And the idea was that the people collectively would be well educated. And because they were so well educated, there would be universal suffrage, means that everyone would have a chance to vote and to elect people who were qualified to lead. And then there would be checks and balances to keep people, that is, the leaders, from going off the rails. Of course, nowadays we see those rails, it's a little dubious. I mean, because first of all, the people aren't educated all that well and are very gullible to advertising campaigns, and people get elected. Back to the original point I was making is people really do want to see good leaders. That's why they really put their heart and soul into political candidates. Why would they waste a bunch of time trying to put somebody in power, at least the general people, if they didn't have some belief that this person is good, has some redeeming quality? Of course, they get disappointed because the material world in a general sense is disappointing, because it gets contaminated by the lower modes of material nature. So Krishna consciousness, on the other hand, has a valid solution, beginning with the individual. Krishna starts with individuals helping themselves and helping others within their purview to improve themselves. Simple science, Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. He starts, well, not starts, but within the Bhagavad Gita, he says that the people become affected by lower modes of material nature, and then they act in predictable ways. And therefore, the way that a person can be helped and act virtuously is by becoming a brahmana and act in the mode of goodness. And therefore, Prabhupada advocated that the Krishna consciousness movement was for training brahmanas. And he said that it's not that everybody in the world would have to become a brahmana, but in various places, one place he says 1% of the population, even that's a lot. He also said 5%, 10%, but a percentage of the population should become brahmanas. And on an individual basis, each person, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, has an opportunity to become purified by practicing the tenets of devotional service, which begin with the process of, as far as we're teaching, the process of following the rules and regulations for cleanliness and peace of mind and chanting Hare Krishna. And then if you have somebody that has actually developed good qualities individually, they can have an effect on everyone around them. And then if you find leaders that are purified and have the wherewithal to teach the basic ideas behind Krishna consciousness, then it can have a widespread effect in human society. So this was Prabhupada's vision, and it's altogether possible because there are volumes written about how one person who develops good qualities can change the world. We see many examples of this throughout religious history. Constantine in Christianity was a king. He brought people together for a council to unite the various factions of Christians, and also allowed Christianity to be practiced within the Roman Empire and so forth. And that made a huge effect. We know about Maharaj Ashoka and Buddhism. Prabhupada mentions it within his purports. And therefore, our mission is valid. Individually, if we practice Krishna consciousness on a regular basis by chanting Hare Krishna, then we will be improved. The Srimad Bhagavatam says, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatiya kinchana sarvar gunas tatra samasate sura harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manoratena sati davato bihi. And that is that by practicing Krishna consciousness, you'll improve, you'll develop good qualities. Because Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayat Yashuvairagyam Jnanam Chayarahaitukam. By practicing direct devotional service, you naturally develop, as concomitants, knowledge, detachment from the world, and so forth. These things are very hard to find anywhere else. In fact, we notice when we go out into the world and teach Krishna consciousness. For instance, I've been going recently to the corporate environment and teaching in the very most basic principles of Krishna consciousness, talking about how to develop knowledge and detachment. And defining knowledge as knowing the difference between the body and the soul is an fantastic revelation for people in general. They don't know the basic things about Krishna consciousness, nor will they find out about them from the New York Times or the Washington Post or any of the other, the BBC. These things are not discussed, nor are politicians, with very, very, very few exceptions, talking about any of these kinds of principles. They're all talking about stopgap measures. So Prabhupada advocates then at the end of the purport that the Hare Krishna mantra will save the world. And how is that? Well, it's Krishna himself. Narada Muni says in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Iti murtyabhidanena mantra murtim amurtikam yajyate yagya purusha sasam yag darshana puman. Iti murtyabhidanena. The word murti means form, and it also means difficulty. So Prabhupada quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and says that the form of the Lord is difficult to behold or to understand at all. And and at the same time, the word murti also means difficulty, and so amurtika means without difficulty, that one will see the form. Murti means form, it also means difficulty. So mantra murtim amurtikam, if you take the mantra, then very easily you'll be able to see the form of the Lord. And you'll have the full vision of the Lord and all the benefits of directly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Prabhupada goes on in the purports to say that the Panchatraik codes within are more important than the Vedic codes in this age, and that they're especially meant to benefit human society. So I was thinking about this word code, which can be used as a noun or a verb. And a code is something that actually gives a standard for something. It's actually, nowadays we know it as it completes an operation. And you can also code, which means that you can create codes. So for us, our movement runs on the codes of the Panchatraik system and also the Mahamantra. We depend on these. And we can see that the whole world runs by codes. Only problem is the world's got the wrong codes. They're following the wrong things. When we're just and they're easily misled if you get the wrong codes. Codes make people work in certain ways. What they hear about as the basic principles for a successful life, they follow, and then they become entangled. So we're meant to present the codes that will actually untangle people and give them an opportunity to develop good qualities. And that will affect the whole world. That's what's being presented here by Srila Prabhupada. And so now, to expand the conversation, we'll take some reflection on the verse, the purport, or anything from the monologue thus far that we can discuss. So reflect back, and we'll have a little discussion. By the way, a reflection isn't a question. It's Hare Krishna Maharaj. It means, you can ask a question. No, please go ahead. Give him the mic. I insist upon it. Don't make me come over there, Maharaj. I'll bring you the mic myself if I have to. No, please bring him the mic. He raised his hand. It's all fair. And it doesn't actually really matter. I just like to control every outcome. Who's got the mic, please? No, that's bogus. No, it's third class. We should have microphones all over the room so that everyone can be heard. Because, we're working with sound vibration here. And we're in a movement that's based on sound vibration, and you can't hear what people are saying we're broadcasting online, and then people are listening, and then all of a sudden an important point comes in, you can't hear it. Here comes the mic. We have a rule, 7 seconds or less or your money back from the class. Marge deserves a refund now.
All that effort in what I've got to say is not a big deal. All right. You say that by practicing Krishna consciousness, this really wasn't the theme of where you were going, so I feel a little embarrassed. But we find that your ISKCON leaders, they're falling down. The devotees are falling down. We find that there's other people that have integrity, that they're not all Krishna conscious devotees. So on one hand, you say there's, no one within, they want to find someone, the general public want to find someone with integrity, but they can't find them. What? The only people with integrity are in Krishna consciousness movement? And we find that some of your top people are falling down. So come on, get real. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
And I'm just giving this as fodder for you to elaborate.
It's good fodder. It's important. It should be brought up. Purva Paksha. The Bhagavatam addresses these points. First, I quoted the verse that is spoken by in the 5th canto, which says that if someone practices Krishna consciousness, they'll develop good qualities. There may be people that have good qualities. However, the verse says, Harava bhaktasya kuto mahad guna manoratena asati davato bihi. Yes, they may have integrity, but it will shift. And what kind of integrity is that? Because ultimately they have no North Star to connect to. The ideas of postmodernism are a result of influence of the modes of material nature. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bahu Shaka Hyanantascha Bahudav Vyavasayinam. It's inevitable that if people don't have some solid ground, that is a principle which is absolute, an axiomatic truth like we have, the Vedic teachings, to come back to, then the ultimate result will be degradation into many different kinds of philosophies, and it won't hold. That's what the Bhagavatam says. On the other hand, those who practice Krishna consciousness, albeit imperfectly, are lauded by the Srimad Bhagavatam as being great souls. For instance, we have Tyaktva Sadharmam Charanam Bhujam Harer Bhajana Pakvota Patet Tadoyati Yatra Kwa Babajam Abura Mushakim Kovarta Apto Bhajatam Sudharmata. Narada Muni says, so what? Somebody takes to devotional service and with full vigor, but they're apakva. They're not ripe yet. They tried for it, the most worthy goal, but they failed and they fell from the path. His opinion is that better they did that than they tried to maintain the status quo in the material world and they were successful, because ultimately it's an empty bag, the material world. What's more, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Sapadamulam bhajata priyasya tyaktanya bhavasya hare priyeshaha vikarma yachchotpatitam katanchid dhunoti sarvam hridi sanivishta. If someone falls from the path of devotional service, then all they have to do is continue practicing devotional service and they'll be rectified. Whereas there is no real rectifying principle in the material world. We find that it's constantly being churned. The lower modes of material nature fight for supremacy, and they come up to afflict those even who are situated within the mode of goodness. It's a highly philosophical answer. Well, not highly. It's not highly anything. It's just a philosophical answer. But on a more practical level, within any given population, there are going to be fewer exemplary leaders than there are followers. And therefore, as I mentioned earlier, Prabhupada said that 1%, 5%, 10%. Even if you find, and again he quotes this verse, if you have one moon, then it's more valuable than many, many stars. So it's a very lofty thing, and it's not so easy, especially in Kali Yuga, to produce perfect leadership. However, if the leadership holds together in Krishna consciousness and continues to do their best to sincerely follow the process, they're also considered to be liberated. Those who are imperfectly following. Ihayasya haredasya karmana manasa gira nikila apyavastasu jivan muktasu uchite. There's every implication or indication throughout the Shastras, and especially teachings of Rupa Goswami coming down through Srila Prabhupada, that the imperfect persons who are following Krishna consciousness are liberated, and they'll ultimately come to the perfect stage. My experience sitting up at the GBC meetings last year was that although it may be imperfect in some ways, the system, it's there, and it's going on, and it's holding as a leadership principle that holds things together. We were recently at Bagh Bazaar in Calcutta, and we saw, after that actually, we saw Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's last instructions. This is at the Bhaktivedanta Research Center, and in it he recommended that there be a GBC body to manage things, and that didn't manifest, so things didn't hold together so well. So there are ways in which to be inventive and hold together the principle of leadership and strength in numbers. Something. Other reflections? Yes, Lakshmanath Prabhu.
Thank you for your points of this class. My point is that our movement seems to be pretty not so mature yet that we would be able to take on such a challenge as leading the world, as our movement is still struggling after 50 some years of just defining what Varnashram is, and having different groups saying that we do need Varnashram, and other groups of our society saying, no, we don't need Varnashram. So our basis would be Varnashram if we did try to establish leadership or governmentship in the world. But it seems that our movement is still not mature enough that we've even defined that in our own society. So
sure. There are, of course, in organizational development and sociological studies, psychological studies, we know that there are different phases in any system of development. And when we look at those phases, we'll see that some of them makes it look highly unlikely that anything will come from it. For instance, in even having a meeting amongst people, I think it starts, someone could correct me, storming, norming, performing. What is it? Storming, norming, forming, and performing. Okay, so there's... and what? And then barely warming. So, the point is, if the principles are sound and one has verified that one is getting accurate information to the best of one's ability, one should, albeit imperfectly, apply it consistently and go on. And I've found personally, in managing a small center on the west coast of California as an experiment, just seeing that at every phase of any project, there's always some sort of chaos. What to speak of when there was a churning of the ocean of milk, poison came out. We've experienced that many times. What to speak of an uneasy feeling that where do we go from here? It seems to me that the most practical thing for all of us is to reinforce our practices of Krishna consciousness individually and in smaller groups and in larger groups. And the principle is, what Prabhupada points here, Krishna's incarnation is coming in the form of the holy name and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then we should also try to enact the various kinds of structures that are recommended. And they may not be forthcoming. It may take some time. So we have to be in a mode of preparation and looking to see where it can be applied. And as I was saying, in my experience, we oftentimes get an idea and we try to implement it. It doesn't hold together immediately or even after some years. But then when the time is right, because of our preparation and our intention, we find the right time for it to work. Srila Prabhupada was no different. He had an idea of spreading a worldwide movement. How would he go about that? He took pen to paper. He wrote extensively, thinking about how to form a movement. A lot of it had to do with training people in Brahminical culture and so forth. And how would he apply it? He would start something in India, the League of Devotees. That didn't work out. Someone could have said then, and they did. They're like, this isn't going to work. I'm sure lots of people said that. What to speak of when he came on the Jaladuta. I hate to be cliche, but there it is. He got on the Jaladuta and he came to America, and he implemented the principles that work. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in explicating the process of devotional service, mentions 64 items. And then he says, well, at least there's 5 that always work, no matter where you are, and no matter how much connection you have to them. My sense is that, for the masses, who's going to follow 64 items of devotional service? But if at least you follow 5 or even 1, which is chanting Hare Krishna, you're going to be successful. So we have to have that spirit also. Even as we have some sense of urgency because we think like we're really unorganized still, we can't start from that position and have strength. We also have to feel that, what we've done so far is significant. It's not so easy to just bring together large groups of people and keep them together for many decades, focused basically on the same goal. That's not so easy. So we've got something, definitely, that is viable, and keep trying. And it will come to pass. Oh, Vijay Prabhu.
Just a reflection there on what you just said. Prabhupada once said that spiritual movement in the material world, very difficult proposal.
Always good to hear. Because oftentimes when we think, it's magical, it'll just work anywhere at any time, and then it doesn't, we become discouraged. It does work, and it will prevail, but we have to have patience and determination in order for it to work over a long period of time. And also, it is the material world, and it is Kali Yuga, so it's better to manage your expectations than to become repeatedly disappointed for thinking that, why aren't we an overnight success? I met a Jehovah's Witness in Japan. I just picked up my copy of Watchtower on the street to check out what they're distributing, because they're much better at it than we are, by the way, and in many ways. You should feel a little anxious on hearing that. And I was sitting in the Govinda's restaurant and commenting to my friend, Satyadev Prabhu, that of all the Christian groups, the Jehovah's Witness seemed to be the most impenetrable or inflexible when discussing theology. And just at that time, the temple president brought over a guest to the restaurant who had been coming week after week, and he was a Jehovah's Witness. At least I had my Watchtower in my hand. And then he said, I really appreciate your movement because I've been reading your spiritual master's books, and he then said these words. He said, I can tell by reading this that you have an unmotivated approach towards God. You're not asking anything. It's about service to God. And then he said, I also admire how determined you are because you're so unorganized. But you keep trying. And he said, don't worry, we used to be like that too. Anyway, we're doing really well, actually. We're starting from a base that's much larger than, for instance, Christianity had, some historical idea about Jesus. There was a lot of contention in the early Jesus movement about who he was, God, not God, and so forth. And then they have some literature, the Buddhist movement, and so forth, which has very little to go on, and has expanded in a huge way. We're starting from out here with Srimad Bhagavatam, arguably the most eloquent and precise literature on the spiritual science in the history of the world. And starting from there and the practices that we have, we should have great optimism about the future of our movement. Yes, Rajendrananda Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And then Maharaj.
A reflection. I appreciated how, when you were referring to the purport, we have to give this Krishna conscious movement, the Hare Krishna movement, to the general populace. And then you said, in extension, that means that each individual has to embrace the process and share it according to their capacity. So it's very easy to try and pass the buck or just and I would have said this whether Lakshmanath Prabhu, you'd said what you said. Very easy to critique or comment on somebody else's execution, but the buck really stops with each and every one of us, or our spiritual master expects it to.
That's a really good point. Individually, in a microcosmic level, we have to look and see how's it working for me, and how much effect will I have when I'm interacting with people and teaching them Krishna consciousness. Cesar Chavez, who started a successful group of people who were laborers who had been abused for many years, and then developed a very powerful very powerful political force, was asked by an interviewer, so how did you do it? He said, well, I just talked to one person, and then another person, and the interviewer said, no, really, how'd you do it? Let's hear he said, then I talked to one more person. So it has to work on an individual level also, and never underestimate the power of one person at a time. Maharaj needs the mic way over there in 7 seconds or less. Sorry I said that. That's good. This is some teamwork here. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful class. We heard that Srila Prabhupada said this movement will conquer the world through education and culture. And my reflection on that is education is theory, but culture is practice. And my feeling is that we still think we'll conquer with philosophy, but if we do not practice our philosophy in the right way, people will not trust us so much, and it will be hard to develop the relationship. And I was also thinking why Srila Prabhupada was saying that in India, every Indian is intrinsically Krishna conscious, because people here believe in different deities. Some believe in Shiva, some believe in Ganesh, etc. So why was he saying that they are Krishna conscious? But actually they have the same culture, and Vedic culture is Krishna's culture. And I was thinking, if we focus more on culture than on philosophy, and focus on relationship rather than on control, trying to control people through Krishna consciousness, because ultimately Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought love, which means respect, care, appreciation. So if we would be more focused as a society on culture, I think we would gain much more appreciation and support within our movement and outside of it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It reminded me of a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam in which Narada Muni says, Idam hi pumsam stapasashutasya va sristasya suktasya tabuditatayo avichutar tar kavibir nirupito ya uttama shloka gunarna varnanam, which means that the perfection of all the various sciences and of culture has to do with bringing people to the vision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the beauty, the aesthetic beauty. I agree with you that people are affected by aesthetics and by culture more than they are philosophy, because people are not really open for instruction in the world. But if you can change their heart, then when their heart opens, they can accept it for themselves. For instance, I was just in Ahmedabad. We were doing some book distribution seminars. You knew I'd have to bring that up, right? So, and then we were doing some seminars about book distribution, and we were talking about the principle, when we go out to meet people one-on-one, of respecting them. Each individual has to be respected. For instance, when you meet people, if you condescend, especially Indians, if you go up to Indians and say, here, buy Bhagavad Gita, you non-practicing Hindu, they'll immediately recoil. Whereas if you go to them and admire the fact that they come from a culture where they already know Bhagavad Gita, that their mother read Bhagavad Gita, their grandmother memorized Bhagavad Gita, and we actually say that, they go, yeah, that's true. And you put them on the Vyasa-san and you as the disciple and say, I'm respecting you, then their hearts open up. And the culture is definitely there that they can take it. And same thing all around the world. People are a little bit resistant, a lot resistant to condescension. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't condescend when he met with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He remained silent for 7 days. That's an austerity, to sit and listen to Mayavad philosophy for 7 days. But if you're going to preach anywhere, you're going to hear all kinds of weird stuff. People all the time, when I talk about meditation, yoga, and yogic principles in the corporate environment, people come up with all kinds of wild stuff. I saw a light, it was yellow-green. What does the green-yellow thing mean? I have no idea. But Prabhupada mentioned that too, that there are people ask him all kinds of questions. But you have to be tolerant and open and loving, as you're saying, and introduce the principles that people can follow, which means remember Krishna, be in contact with the beautiful vibration, and then gradually the medicine will have an effect. Narhari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. There was a lot of discussion in the purport about the modes of material nature. It was like pretty ubiquitous all throughout as we were reading. And I was sort of reflecting upon how, because we're not pure devotees, we're still affected by the material nature, but hopefully by the teachings of Prabhupada, not contaminated by them. Because we know they're there, and the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Nahi kaschit chamamapi jatu tishtant akarma krit karyate hyavasa karma sarva prapratisiki jargunai. That everyone is affected constantly by the modes of nature. So I was thinking how beautifully we've been trained to sort of harness them and use them in Krishna service. Like, for example, we know that the mode of goodness is very prominent early in the morning, which is why we rise early in the morning, the best time to hear and to chant. And then later in the day, when the mode of passion sort of kicks in, then Prabhupada would say something like Bhagavatam in the morning, bank balance in the afternoon. So we sort of surf that Rajas gun in the afternoon, not contaminated by it, because we're using it, surfing it in Krishna's service. You can tell I come from Hawaii. And then the mode of ignorance, when that comes about in the evening, it's a great time to sleep. So we rest our bodies for Krishna in that way. So no matter how the modes of nature are acting, as long as we use them in Krishna service. Like I know sailing, if we want to sail from point A to point B, it doesn't matter what direction the wind is blowing. It can be coming from the north, south, east, or west. But if you know how to navigate those winds, and we can take it to wherever we want to go. So it's great that we have been taught how to harness those modes of nature.
Yes, thank you very much. In the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna devotes an entire section when speaking to Uddhava about the importance of cultivating sattva gun. As from there it's easier to transfer to the transcendental mode. And there's a lot to be said about that, but there's very little time, and I got all these notes, and I have 30 seconds left. You said that Lord takes action to protect Dharma, but sometimes it seems that a lot of damage has already taken place, and then Lord comes. Example, how many people have already been killed, plundered in the name of religion, poor leadership? How can we understand Lord's indeed acting in the right time? Well, because He's the Lord. He knows, He's got a wider perspective of when to come. I mean, someone could have said that about the children of Devaki being killed, but He knew who they were. They were lined up to be killed and make the way for Krishna to advent. So He does it within due course of time. And don't think that just because you have Dharma, you're not going to get chewed up by the material nature. You're still going to get chewed up and ground to pieces because of the wheel of time. But you'll be cognizant that this is the working of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it's beyond your control. There's a difference. And finally, how can one identify one's place in ISKCON in terms of contribution or service? Best thing is to associate with those who are high-minded and who are engaged in very positive service. And when you feel an inspiration from associating with them, then to try to emulate what they're doing. I heard recently from, what's her name, the famous... Genevieve Harrison was talking in an interview about how she met Jamuna, and she was contemplating, how she would fit into the Krishna conscious movement or practice Krishna consciousness and all. And after she met Jamuna, when she was driving home in her parents' car, then she thought, I want to be like that person. So service flows from one devotee to another, and if you find some person that is exemplary who inspires you, and then you can act as an apprentice, then you can actually find your way into the Krishna conscious movement and not only have a brilliant career in devotional service, but also go back home, back to Godhead at the end of life. Gaur Premanande Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, Bo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Vanchakalpatarvishcha kripasnabhevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nantakoti Vaishnavini ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
श्री श्री नृसिंहदेव भगवान की प्रहलाद महाराज की जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की ओम नरसिंहाय नमः ओम महासिंहाय नमः ओम डिंब सिंहाय नमः ओम महाबलाय नमः ओम उग्र सिंहाय नमः ओम महादेवाय नमः ओम स्तंभजाय नमः।